challenged. I have tried always to prove myself من أول وأنا صغيرة. أنا أهم حاجة أثرت عليا أمي كانت بنت وحيدة مش had a mind of her own and very intelligent. ما كملتش علوم يعني خدت شوية مدارس فرنساوي وكده وقعدت وكانت مدلعة قوي. أنا أعرفه من كل الانتراج بتاعها إن هي اللي قررت هي هتتجوز بابا. بابا كان أهله في الصعيد كلهم في بنجة، لكن هو جاب مصر وتعلم ميدل رينج education خالص يعني. وبعدين لما اتجوزوا كانت هي it was a matriarchal family. I cannot claim إن إحنا we are higher class but a decent middle class family. لما رحت الجفرمنت سكول ما خلصت الابتدائيه طبيعي جدا اروح الامريكان كولج. بعد ما افتكر كويس قوي الليله اللي هم راحوا ماما عملت بيك سين ورفضت تخليهم يروحوا وقالت انا اولادي ما يروحوش في الحته دي يخسروا فيها. امريكان كولج عباره عن بنات متحررات ويلبسوا سوكس ويبصوا في المرايه وحاجات كده، وكانت عامله فيري بيج دراما. I had 2 BAs at the American University, but during my days the MA was not offered. It was offered much later after I went to Geneva and I was doing this and I did not take it. But then I decided that okay, when the second child was 3.5 years old and ready to go to school, I went back to university to get my MA in sociology and anthropology. My first experience in the World YWCA, it was a women's organization, was just for 16 months in 1952-1953. I was the only Egyptian working on the YWCA staff, and until now, they have had Egyptians on executive committees and all kinds, but there's not one person who was on the staff. It was a very intensive, liberating experience because I really did not, first of all, from the sense of living away from the family, it was the first time. Doing things for the first time alone. Well, I was telling you about my experience in the World Council. I stayed 6 years there. And when I think of who supported me most were some of my male colleagues, especially the General Secretary, and the women. We really had a women's movement. And the women took a very active part. We had a pre-assembly women's meeting, and then they took very active part in different groups, and they were very conspicuous in really defining themselves for a change and giving testimonies for their own role, not copying, because very often the women in the churches were copying the male models. But we were very conscious of the fact of how we can be ourselves and listen to as women. And that was the movement we were creating together. That was my continuous struggle for the 60s. Not with my colleagues in the World Council, but all the hierarchies of the churches, because you see, officially, I meet the top, the bishops and the popes and the things, and they were very uneasy with me. I made a study, and I found that one of the areas that were very highly neglected and very much needed was the situation of health and women. And nothing in the upgrading was happening directly on this. I had come from a family and atmosphere where FGM is part of our tradition. I led by influenced by many of my friends who told me, you know, this is not an issue. But more and more, I became clear, it's not FGM. It's all that we are saying about the status of women, her rights, recognize her as a human, her dignity and all this. How can I deal with family planning or literacy or the girls in Mukata and all this, and let this girl be cut up? I was a hypocrite. So I found it, for me, it's a key to all my work. And that's why I'm continuing. I think liberation is possible anywhere in any conservative homes. I think it's, you know, when you sit and reflect and discipline yourself and really submit that there is a purpose for you and there is a power of goodness that pushes you if you find the right truth, I felt that this had become a very big driving force for me.